welcome to Braveheart Conversations. Since Ashley's not here today, I'm going to do this wonky thing. Hang with me for a second. Okay, got shared to our groups. Thank you for giving me a minute. All right, hopefully that worked.
That was pretty smooth.
I know, that was way more smooth. Usually it turns me sideways. So let's see, did that work? I don't know that that went through. Let me just double check. Bear with me for a second, guys. Was that too good to be true?
There it is.
Oh, we're good. I'm good this morning. All right, it's gonna be a good day. Okay, so welcome to Braveheart Conversations. I am Jillian Aurora, and my co-host is Marie Wallace.
Hi, guys.
We are super excited to be here with you today. And thank you so much for joining us live on Facebook. You can join us live every week on Thursday morning. You can find us at facebook.com/groups/Braveheart Conversations. And you can also find us on Spotify, iTunes, and Podbean. So with that, let's jump into our topic today. Today, we're going to be talking about decision making and specifically like how we can sometimes get wrapped up in our old belief system and how that can sabotage what we want moving forward. So we're going to talk about the dilemmas that Marie and I have both seen in women as we try to make relationship decisions, and then we get into this repeat pattern where we get into relationships that dishonor us, and we all of a sudden throw out all of our values and we compromise the things that we said meant a lot to us, and then we get into the relationship and all of a sudden the relationship is the priority instead of the values. So I'm really excited because this is going to be a juicy topic. I think this is something a lot of women struggle with. So let's do this. Yeah, for me, what comes up around this particular topic is what we have been trained to believe the ideal man is, who he is, who we describe him to be in our mind. And for me, I like to describe this as my king space.
Oh, I like that.
Right?
Yeah.
So I really like the theme of being a goddess, right? When I can envision myself in that space of royalty, then I tend to hold my standards a lot higher versus the old programming, which is like the nice girl. So I often make that distinction. What would the goddess do? What would the nice girl do? I don't really want to be the nice girl anymore because she gets me into trouble.
Which doesn't mean that the goddess can't be nice, but she knows when it's appropriate.
Right. There's a big difference. Like the goddess is kind. She's very kind and compassionate, but she holds her standards very high. And she's not afraid to set boundaries or speak her truth or throw people out of her space that aren't respectful.
Also.
Yes. So I like to think of the goddess having a king space, right? She has a standard for the man that is able to fill that space. And if you put a pawn there, you cannot make him a king.
Yes.
And so what I want to talk about today is the past ways that we have described the king, the guy that is like the ideal man. And what got me into trouble was describing this man as a person who was authoritative. He was the leader. He was decisive. He was strong. He wasn't weak. He was confident. Like all of these things, and I'm sure
he was the breadwinner.
Right? Yeah,
those were old lists that I had.
Yeah. He's the provider. He's the protector. So, and those are all things that I really perceived as good manly qualities. The problem is what was missing, like none of those things are inherently bad at all. Like I still want a man to be all of those things. I still see healthy masculinity as those things. And I see healthy masculinity not being threatened by my own masculinity, because we have a balance of feminine and masculine energy. And I believe that the healthiest relationships are when I have a very healthy masculine and feminine side, and my partner has a healthy masculine and feminine side. So what I'm saying is, if a man's leadership is threatened by times that I activate my leadership, or a man's confidence is threatened when I'm confident, or a man's decision making is threatened when I make decisions, that's a huge, huge, huge red flag. And I see that a lot of this comes from women's perception that they don't have these skills. They don't have leadership. They can't make decisions. They can't make their own money and provide for themselves. They can't protect themselves. They need someone else. And this was such a big wound for me to heal. I don't need anyone else outside of myself to protect me and to provide for me. I am able to create everything that I need, and I am able to stand up for myself and speak my truth and set boundaries, and I can have my back. When I can have those things for myself, and I've activated my what I call my own inner warrior, that's when I am available for a healthy relationship, not when I'm depending on an outside source for what I call the warrior, right? I don't need an external warrior. I don't need anything outside of myself. I want something outside of myself, right? I want that relationship. I don't need it. What I need is my own inner warrior to show up and be activated. So that's my take. Marie, you tell me.
That was juicy. It's exactly where I have been, because in the past it's gotten me in trouble when I didn't own my own power, and I wasn't discerning enough to know that yes, I have all those tools within me. And that is the balance. It's a shared partnership. It's a shared leadership. And anytime someone is threatened by that, like you said, huge, huge flag for me, because honestly, everything is better together. However, but not at the cost of losing all of this, this person that I am. I don't need you. And I'm really glad you brought that up. I want that other person in my life. I desire to have, Joe and I have this great, amazing leadership. I desire to have that co-leadership, co-creating together. However, I don't need him to protect me. I don't need him to provide for me. And I think that's kind of the benefit of growing up and being on my own at an early time, and I had a job early, because that's how I got to shift a lot of those paradigms for me. And I was able to be the breadwinner and know what that feels like. It's so empowering to be that person who is able to provide for themselves, and then anything else is cake or bonus, right? It's super empowering feeling, and it really fortifies your decision making. Just so you know, that knowing what your power feels like makes decisions a lot easier.
Yeah, I call that feeding the fire. So we talk about self-care, and a lot of times we're talking about feminine self-care. We're talking about going to the spa and getting a massage and doing the things that are pampering, and they're wonderful. Take a bath, do all those things.
Well, we have another side.
But yeah, there's masculine self-care that's just as vitally important, and that's challenging yourself physically. That might be going to the gym, doing something that's really active and challenging, and sassy music for me, taking on leadership roles, being in a powerful position, powerlifting. All of those things are feeding your masculine side, and that is also self-care. That's really, really important. And I like, going back to wanting a person and not needing a person. One thing I talk about is, if love isn't a choice, it's not love. So when we're in a space where we need our partner and we talk about that, I need you so much, I can't lose you, I need you, that is attachment. That's not love. And so I believe the most loving thing that we can do is to be in a place where we are both able to take care of ourselves, and we choose into the relationship because we want it, not because we're dependent on the other person for something. A key...
That's a codependence, guys.
Totally. Yeah. Yes. And a red flag to watch for is when your partner is actually accentuating that. So something that happened for me was that would be pointed out to me. You need my money. You need me, right?
Yep.
That would be pointed out to me. And then it was threatening when I remember the day that he said, you've become a really strong woman, and I don't think I like that. So that my strength was threatening to him. It was something that he didn't want. He didn't like. He did not want to see that expansion in me. That was a massive red flag. And that was something that I really got to look at as something that was not a value, right? It was not in alignment with my values. I had to get radically honest. And this is another really hard piece, is we often want to hope for the best, and we want to think, oh, they didn't really mean that, or, I just misunderstood. I mean, we give lots of leeway, but very often you're right. And you get to listen to that inner voice when something isn't lining up. When you're hearing a partner, or you're feeling a partner,
Or you're thinking in the same terms, because maybe your partner hasn't said...
Exactly.
But you are thinking, I need him, I need his money, I need his protection. That's a warning flag for you too, because sometimes we're sabotaging ourselves, like you were saying. So
totally.
Keep going, I'm sorry. But I wanted to add that those are thoughts I've had.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, those get you in trouble.
Or like, even if this was a big one for me, even if I am thinking about making a decision, maybe it's a business decision, maybe it's a personal decision, it's a risk. And if my first thought is that my partner, like I'm afraid of my partner's response instead of excitement or belief in me, that's a big red flag, right? So we've kind of been trained to make these ideal lists of our partner revolve around only qualities about him. What I want people to start transitioning to is also including how that person relates to me. When I am strong, when I am a leader, when
their acceptance of me.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when I'm acting in my authenticity, how are they relating to me? Are they encouraging me? Are they celebrating me? What is their position about who I am? And then, it's not just about the list, like we basically started this conversation, but your willingness to enforce the list. And
which is not easy.
It's not easy.
We find ourselves compromising so much, because the other paradigm of that compromise is, in a relationship you compromise. Mm-hmm. It's be discerning about and owning that discernment, which is how we started this. Mm-hmm. Owning the discernment that it's okay for me to not compromise on what I value most.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. I think we often compromise because as women, we are we've been trained to see someone else as the authority. Mm-hmm. So it can be very easy to fall into submission to a partner when they really haven't. They don't value equal partnership. We're not valuing equal partnership. So therefore we fall into this weird, like, I'm submitting to somebody that isn't even...
Or you're making a last minute decision because you just,
Yeah, so I think part of that is that old paradigm of the hierarchy, because that was where we came from. Women didn't have equality. Women didn't have power in relationships. They weren't the decision makers. They didn't have a right to themselves, really. So their husband or their partner was entitled to them. You don't say no about how you use your time. You don't say no about where you put your attention. Like, if they ask for it, they get it. Your resources weren't yours. Not that long ago, women didn't even have access to their own money or bank account. And then your body, you can't say no. So we're coming out of this very real suppression where we didn't own ourselves. we were owned. So we were considered property, and now we have equality, but very, very often we're not owning it. We are still behaving and acting as if we are owned by someone else, and that we don't have the authority to make our own decisions. We do have the authority to make our own decisions. We have the authority to say how we're going to use our time, where we will put our attention, equal energy exchanges for our labor. We can have our own resources. Nobody gets to be entitled to that. We are entitled to our resources. We are entitled to our bodies. So these are new foreign things for us to master and learn and to really own.
It's a whole new practice and mindset, right? And taking the time to stop those thoughts and go, what do I really think? What am I really thinking? What do I really feel? And is that in alignment with what I value, right? If I'm not looking at what I value in alignment, then it's not going to be an equal exchange. And I haven't shifted. I haven't really owned my power. So it's just taking some time to really sift through those thoughts when they're coming through your brain, to stop and go, oh, wait a minute, I just said I don't have that power. Oh, I just was waiting for my partner's acceptance in that behavior or that new thing I want to do. The support comes from when I own my power. And I've had that come up a few times for me, how great Joe is and supportive. But the other side of the coin is I've asked for that support, and I've owned my power in that, and it's awesome that you're there for me, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Right, right. And I think very often, yes, the conversation in many relationships is permission. Can I blah, 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 instead of this is what I'm going to do, right? So we are owning our own personal autonomy. I am an individual person in a relationship. The relationship doesn't define me. I still define myself. I am still an individual in a relationship. And that also makes me think of how our old paradigm of the relationship, we've often prioritized the relationship above the individual, which I believe is really detrimental, because if you don't have two healthy individuals, you have no relationship.
Well, and you can't even deepen the connection, or it's a surface kind of relationship. It's more of a a friendship. It's a different level when you can both own your own autonomy. Let me tell you, the relationships get so much better.
Right, absolutely. I see the definition, and this is really important for anybody who is looking to get into a new and healthy relationship. Don't just define the person that you want to find, but also define what is a healthy relationship. What's the purpose of a relationship? What's the purpose of a marriage? So for me, when I think of what the purpose of a relationship is, it's the relationship betters both people. It
magnifies us.
Yeah. Right. It empowers both individuals to serve their purpose at their highest potential, to shine at their greatest potential. It empowers them to be more of themselves, not less. And that's what I see in a lot of relationships, is a diminishing of ourselves in order to make the relationship work. And I see that is the exact opposite of what a relationship is meant to be and do. A relationship is meant to expand us and to help us flourish more. So we get to really question the direction of the relationship if that's not happening. That's always a gauge for me. Is this lifting me up? Is this stretching me?
We call it magnify the brilliance.
Yeah.
Right? Are we magnifying our gifts and what we came here to do? Are we in our best selves? And if your best days already happened, that's a big flag too.
Yeah. Yes. So the relationship gets to change course. There may be a necessary ending, which is okay.
Yeah.
Endings are part of the cycle of life. There's a season for everything. Sometimes seasons, well, always seasons are meant to end, right? There's an ending to seasons. So it's okay to recognize this was a season or a chapter. And that's, not just with relationships, that's all sorts of things. That could be a business, that could be a business partner, that could be a friendship, that could be a home. There's all sorts of things that we get to acknowledge their ending, and that's just part of the natural cycle of life. And when we hold judgment towards that ending is when we really get ourselves into trouble.
Or ourselves.
Yeah. And so it's okay to say, this relationship at one point was really honoring, and today it's not. And it's okay to acknowledge an ending, and it's even okay to say, today I see that this is not honoring us and it needs to end. And you could both shift and change, and maybe there's another season.
And you say thank you for the lessons and the love and all that I learned in this. And, it can be gracefully.
Yes.
It can be graceful.
Yeah.
But it's just I think the letting go doesn't have to be this hold on so tight. If you gracefully say thank you and offer it up to the universe to take care of that person from now on, it's just a healthy way to honor both of them and yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be clingy or sad. I mean, not that it won't be sad, because we're human, but it doesn't have to be this long, laborious. It's just a letting go.
Yeah, I think that we are moving into a time where there's more like the term is conscious uncoupling.
Yes.
It's very fluffy to me, but
conscious uncoupling.
But
sounds wordy.
But there is a way to do it that you're acknowledging. So often breakups are happening where you hate each other, right? Yeah. We're breaking up because you did something wrong, and
blame and
and it's awful. And it doesn't need to be that way. It really is okay to just acknowledge, this relationship isn't serving us anymore. This relationship isn't doing what it's meant to do, which is to better both of us, which is to expand us and to not give us limitations, but to push us out of the nest and flying
to the next thing.
Doing
what we came here for.
Yeah, our purpose, living in our purpose. So there's a whole different peaceful route in making that happen, instead of being wrapped up in, I can only leave this relationship if someone cheats on me, or if they're, doing something horrific, then I am okay to leave. That's kind of been the paradigm. And
some don't even leave when that happens.
Yeah, there's a lot of that too.
There's some flags there.
Yeah. So anyway, I just think that there gets to be another way, a more peaceful way in ending those relationships when they need to happen. It's okay to end. It's actually necessary to end lots of things in this life, and that will propel you forward. So yeah, that priority, what's the priority, the individuals or the relationship? If the relationship is the priority, there's some issues there. What I see on the flip side, we just talked about expanding, but what I see is people tolerating a lot of ways that they are diminishing themselves in a relationship. So they really they're so attached to that relationship and having that person that they're willing to put up with behavior that doesn't honor them, treatment that is just sometimes absolutely horrific, the way that
compromise of your values,
the way that people are talking to you. And will you, Marie, I know that you were talking about having some people that have compromised their values. What are some examples that you can think of where somebody had this value and then all of a sudden it just poof went out the window?
Okay, so one typical, this has come up many, many times, even many, many times this month in different people that I've worked with, and that is, you would say, I will only accept people who are honoring of me. And then they called them names, or they disregarded a boundary, or they cheated, or whatever the value was, they held it up here. But when one example is the guy cheated, and she's like, well, I know that's going to happen in the relationship. And I'm going, okay, so if, I mean, what are you compromising? What value are you compromising? You're compromising what you truly value is someone honoring you and allowing them to be not there for you is one, and the second, it's so dishonoring, and you've not held that person up in high regard. And if you're accepting that level, how are you going to grow? How are you going to be in your brilliance? How are you going to have that relationship that you truly crave? Because you've already said, go ahead, it's okay if you cheat on me. It's okay if you call me names. It's okay if you, because I didn't really mean that. It makes you wishy-washy. Mm-hmm. How are you going to get the relationship you want if you're wishy-washy? Well, that was really negotiable. And how are they going to believe you the next time you said, this is really the line? Really, I mean it this time, right? I really, really mean it. Because what they're compromising for is that warm body in the bed next to them or that security or protection that we talked about earlier, the protection and the money and those things. We're saying that we can't do it on our own, that we need that person, even if it comes with all the things that I said I didn't want. It's okay, I don't really mean it. And I think wishy-washy is probably the thing that is the hardest, because no one can trust you then. No one can trust anything else that comes out of your mouth.
Damn, girl. Speak it.
Sorry.
No, awesome.
I unleashed on that one.
Great. Good stuff there. Yeah, I love that you said you're unbelievable. It reminds me of an article I wrote probably last year, but it was about that. I hear a lot of women that are saying all of these standards, mm-hmm. but behavior is our currency, right? Behavior, our action. What are we doing? If I say you can't hit me and you hit me and I just tell you louder that you can't hit me.
Don't do that next time.
It's not believable. I have told you through my behavior that it is okay to hit me.
And it might follow up with needing a rule or a consequence that comes up with that. Because I think sometimes we might create a boundary and then we compromise on what that consequence would be.
I think for me, it's understanding what my consequences are. I
agree.
Don't believe I have to speak my boundaries for them to be valid. So
yes, I agree.
I only have to know my boundaries. I have to know my limits, and nobody else really needs to know. However, there are times I decide to communicate them. It really depends on what it is. So I'm not going to warn somebody about not being okay to hit me. I'm just going to end the relationship. I'm not going to warn somebody about drug addiction. I'm just not available. And it doesn't matter. Like, I don't need to give a forewarning on those things.
Right. I'm just saying, if they know ahead of time what is acceptable. Sometimes.
To me, it just depends. So in those scenarios, I don't really care if they know if that's acceptable or not. It's just not acceptable.
It's not.
So if they don't know that, that's okay. And it doesn't mean they're a bad person. It just means I'm just not available for it. And there might be other things where I might choose to say, hey, I really hate that dish being there. I mean,
oh, yeah.
Simple things like that, where of course I'm gonna give a little
some
bit
of them are just common sense.
Yeah. So but it is a really important key that you don't have to explain your boundary for it to be valid. You are the only one that needs to know your boundary. So that's really important. I forget just the believability. So if you do say, this is my line, this is what I'm available for, and then they push up against it and you back down and you don't enforce that boundary, what your behavior has said is far more powerful than what your words said. So if you said, I'm not available for a relationship where there's substance abuse, and then there's substance abuse, and then you just say it again, you have just, like, you've gotten yourself into some dark waters, because your behavior has now shown that actually you are available for that. So we get to really level up our behavior. Our behavior is what informs everyone, just like their behavior informs us, right? Not their words, their behavior.
Can I use a cow metaphor?
Yeah.
I think we've used this before about a year ago. There's this metaphor where a cow pushes up against the fence and the fence breaks. And so the cows get out. So don't let your cows out. You rebuild the fence, and where are they going to keep pushing? In the same spot where the fence gave, because they know that has broken in that spot before. So, like, reinforce your fence. I don't know, that just came up for me.
No, I like that. Yeah.
It just gives you a visual picture of if I let that fence down, those cows are going to get out. It's going to happen. It's not going to be honored because you've already shown that
a pattern of compromise.
A pattern of compromise.
Yeah.
Which is a total different compromise than what you're asked to do in relationships.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the word compromise, because it gets twisted really easy, and it becomes accommodating of someone else, and it becomes a way of twisting and shifting our boundaries when that's just not really like what we started this conversation, when we take our values and they and then someone doesn't honor them and we still allow them the space to do that. I want to end on this principle that I really, really like, which is you will get exactly the level of respect that you settle for. So, and that brings up, the compromising. You can compromise. Just know whatever level you're willing to compromise at is the standard that you're setting.
I like that.
So
that's a really good.
Whatever you're willing to settle for. Like, you can settle for anything you want. You're the dictator. You are the authority in your life, always. So whatever you're willing to settle for, that is what you'll always get. So you set your standards higher, that becomes what you settle for. So if you've got rock bottom standards and you're miserable, just know, like, it's a choice. You get to keep tolerating that if you want. Everything is allowed. Everything is allowed. But you can always decide differently and say, my requirements have now changed, and now I am only willing to settle for this. So anyway.
It's not easy, but it's certainly worth it to get the relationships that you truly want.
Yes. So key. So anyway, we love your questions or comments. If you have any, in fact, I'm going to just take a look. I didn't see any questions. Thank you all for watching. Oh, did I miss one? You need a husband. Women are in trouble. Oh my. I don't know.
Don't need one. It's kind of nice to have one around, but you don't need one.
No. I'm happy either way. I'm definitely not against marriage. I'm not bitter towards men at all. I've got a great boyfriend. But I don't need a relationship, and that's super freeing. Haven't always been there. I've known both sides.
So have I.
Yeah.
Which is why we want to cut the learning curve for you.
Yeah, learn from our mistakes.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah. All right, so with that, I just want to say, if you have any questions or comments, or you'd like to request a topic for one of the coming episodes, you can reach out to either of us. You can email me at defytheaverage@gmail.com, or
Marie@mariesgold.com. We really look forward to hearing from you. So questions, or if you want to banter back and forth, we like that too. We like that discussion. So yeah, send something.
Please do, yes. And you can also start discussions or just jump in
Request
on
a
discussions.
topic.
Yeah, at our Facebook group, which is facebook.com/groups/Braveheart Conversations. And you can also access any of our old episodes on Podbean, Spotify, and iTunes. And with that, we are going to go ahead and wrap up, and we'll see you again next week. I hope you all have a fabulous week, and we love you all. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.